Washington, D.C., alongside Anderson Cooper, who is in Tel Aviv, Israel, and we are tracking major developments on Capitol Hill and in the Middle East. Republican Congressman Steve Scalise has just locked down the Republican nomination for House Speaker. A full vote to determine if he will become the 56th Speaker of the House is potentially coming up this afternoon. We will, of course, follow that live. Anderson?
And here in Israel, a nation readies the next phase of a war. One of the largest troop mobilizations in the country's history is now underway. We have been witnessing the buildup of forces over the last several days, amassing along the Gaza border and at other sites. The bombardment of Gaza continues. In less than a week of fighting, both Israel and Gaza are reporting more than 1,000 deaths. Both sides are bracing for things to get a lot worse, obviously scrambling to get civilians out of the crosshairs. A senior Israeli official telling CNN that talks are happening to allow U.S. citizens, also Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip, to perhaps exit into Egypt ahead of any Israeli ground invasion. That was something that the National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan had intimated yesterday in a press conference. He had talked about diplomatic efforts underway to try to figure out about potential border crossings, but we're still waiting for some sort of resolution on that. Obviously, the Egyptian border, there's the Egyptian border and there's the Israeli border. They're not going to be able to enter into Israel. Egypt seems to be the only option at this point if Egyptian authorities can be convinced to allow that to happen. There's also an urgent push to try to find, locate free hostages taken by Hamas, believed to be more than 100. Islamic Jihad, also, which operates in Gaza, had said they had some 30. That was several days ago. Unknown number of Americans among those hostages. The top U.S. hostage official is with Secretary of State Antony Blinken, about to depart from Israel. And I should point out, we are expecting to hear comments from Antony Blinken at any moment. We'll try to bring those to you live. The country of Qatar is also involved, mediating talks between Israel and Hamas regarding any potential release of women and children. Hamas had put out a statement days ago saying that this is not the time to discuss any kind of hostage negotiation while there is ongoing conflict. That remains to be seen if any progress can be made on that front with the involvement of Qatar. I want to go on the ground right now to CNN's Nick Robertson, who I believe still is in Sderot at this hour. Nick, explain where you are, what you have been seeing.
Yeah, just a couple of miles from the border fence with Gaza, Anderson. And in the last couple of minutes, literally 3 or 4 minutes, there was a massive barrage of rocket fire coming from Gaza, coming into here. The Iron Dome was intersecting, taking them out in the sky above here. And there were so many rockets coming from Gaza that the Iron Dome was intersecting from another angle as well. So several Iron Domes. You can hear the detonations there. We've been talking about those. The artillery that's being fired onto Gaza as well to try to get those rocket launch sites. But at the same time as well, another development that you and I were discussing an hour ago, we were hearing all that small arms fire very close to here. That was something unusual. Now that's been confirmed. The small arms fire is over. It really ramped up a little bit later in intensity, a real firefight going on. That was taking place a couple of miles from here, approximately, perhaps a little less, over the hill, away from where we are. But we found out that that was a couple of Hamas infiltrators that the Israeli Defense Forces had found, got into a firefight with them, neutralized them, the euphemism they use. That, again, is just indicative, to answer the question we were talking about last hour. Are there still Hamas operatives on the loose here? And the answer is very clearly yes, and relatively close to this town of Sderot as well, which itself is a couple of miles from the border with Gaza. But everything that you see around us so instructive of the biggest picture, of the big picture. But the rocket fire on Sderot this evening, that was something. You know, we didn't really see anything of that intensity during the day. I don't think we saw it at that intensity last night. But that was quite a big barrage, quite a couple of salvos they fired in here, Anderson.
Nick, it's really stunning to me that, not surprising, but it is still just something to remark on the fact that here we are now. I'm not sure how many hours it has been since the 6:30 a.m. initial terror attacks began Saturday morning. That there are still Hamas squads on the ground or individuals on the ground around Sderot in that border area. I mean, that says something.
It does, and I think what it says is, and the evidence seems to come in to support this, because what the IDF are finding when they are getting on the location of these small groups they find, they're finding that at places where they kind of stashed food and water. So it appears that these guys are not recent to come in. They may well have come in on Saturday, maybe late Saturday, maybe Sunday, before the border was beginning to be shored up, and have gone to ground with that sole aim of getting out and attacking. So I think this speaks to the issue that, you know, when you have 1,500 members of Hamas, they're fighters coming in here through multiple holes along this long border fence on Saturday morning. If you have 1,500 that have been accounted for, then it's logical that there will be some that are unaccounted for, and the accounting is still going on. The IDF will be adding another 2 or 3 tonight, close to here, to the tally of Hamas they've found now. I think that they would expect to find more, and I think it stands to reason. You have so many flood in over the weekend that there's likely a few still holding out, hiding out some places.
Nick, I don't think we know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Are there any numbers of how many potential terrorists Hamas has? How many potential people do they have willing to die to support Hamas? I mean, if they had 1,000 fighters, 1,000 militants crossing over the border, some of those with higher levels of training than others, at some point, do they run out of numbers, or do we know?
I think there's one very simple and frank answer to that, and that is that in a population of 2 million people in Gaza who feel as if they are absolutely being squeezed to the maximum by Israel. That's their view inside Gaza. There is no shortage of recruits for Hamas or to the Islamic Jihad or to other groups. Young men seem to flock to them because they've got an attractive message: fight the enemy. And I think the best analysis is, and I don't have the most up-to-date figures here, but it will be in the tens of thousands that Hamas can count on for support. Their challenge is probably giving them all weapons and flak jackets and instructions, and keeping any hint of a big operation below the radar, another destination there in Gaza. If you were to try to send too many people across the border, perhaps that leads to disorganization. But I think the idea that they've run out of people, I think probably Hamas would probably say no, plenty more recruits, and I think the evidence supports that. We just don't know how much they can, how many weapons they can put in their hands, how many they can really make operational.
Yeah. Also, the level of training that any of those newer recruits may have would obviously be a consideration on the battlefield. Nick Robertson, appreciate it. Let's go back.
Yeah,
to
Anderson, I'm just gonna interrupt. The Iron Dome is going up here, so I'm expecting more intercepts. Yeah. So I'm expecting there are more missiles coming. That's the siren. We'll leave the camera rolling. I'll just step into a little bit of cover here and talk you through what we're seeing.
So Nick, explain the lights that we just saw tracking across the sky. Are those from the Iron Dome? Are those the interceptors?
That was from the Iron Dome. Those were the interceptors. You saw the interceptors tracking through the sky, and that was very much like the salvo just before at the top of the hour. They tracked through the sky. I was able to watch them behind John. I can still see the contrails of where they came up from the Iron Dome launch site, and as soon as I saw those little tracers come up that we were catching on the camera, John was catching on the camera, We know because we've seen it for a number of days now. That means there's rockets coming from Gaza. We couldn't see the rockets coming, but those intercepts, those bangs that you heard, that was the Iron Dome interceptors connecting with the rockets. And again, you can't overemphasize it. And somewhere like Sderot, that's so close to the border with Gaza, when rockets are fired from Gaza, there are literally seconds for the Iron Dome to spring into action. And that's what we saw. And it's remarkable as well because the Iron Dome was, I would say their interceptor missiles were in the sky 2 to 3 seconds before the tannoy across the town here came on telling people, danger close, get to the shelter, stay in the shelter. So, the best indicator if you're under attack, in this place at least, is to be able to see the Iron Dome taken to the sky. And that, that's what we saw play out here. And I think we may be seeing rockets coming up from Gaza. Just seeing another one coming up. So I think we might get some more. Yep, intercepts coming up.
Can you explain
overhead
how
now.
the Iron Dome works?
Intercepts. Iron Dome.
Explain how it works.
Yes. Stand by though. Multiple Iron Domes at work here.
Why doesn't Ukraine have an Iron Dome like Israel? Ukraine needs an Iron Dome like Israel. Give Ukraine some Iron Domes like Israel. They need some Iron Domes. Don't you know? Just like Israel. Just like Israel. Just like Israel. Oh yeah. Give Ukraine some protection in the sky. Air defense, give Ukraine some Iron Domes, not just Patriot missiles. Why? Yes, they could really use an Iron Dome. Can't you, Ukraine? How about you, Ukrainian people? Wouldn't you like an Iron Dome? Ukraine needs, yes, it needs Iron Domes like Israel. Ukraine needs lots of Iron Domes. Give them Iron Domes, come on world. Give Ukraine some Iron Domes just like Israel. Yeah.
Intelligent system that calculates the angle of Hamas's rocket, the direction of Hamas's rocket, and it says, okay, this Iron Dome unit is the best one to fire off. And it says, fire off 5, 6, 7, 8, depending on how many incoming missiles they're picking up on their radar systems. It's complex, and it's probably relatively expensive, but it saves lives. Every one of those rockets there, we didn't hear a single impact here just now. So it shows you here, on this occasion right now, not all across today, but on this occasion right now, it appears to have intercepted everything coming in this direction. Clear message from Hamas. They know, perhaps they already know that 2 of their operatives were picked up, neutralized is the term, over the hill from here this evening. They're firing back in here. This town now is a militarized town. It is awash with troops, and part of the reason it's awash with troops is because there's concerns that there might be more Hamas militants out there. Anderson?
We should also point out, Nick, that those interceptors from the Iron Dome system, that is one of the things the U.S. has said that they want to provide more of to Israel, both giving them the funding for those and also directly providing more interceptors to bolster the system, because it has, just for value for dollar in terms of each of those interceptors going up, it is protecting property on the ground. It's protecting human lives, most importantly, on the ground, and allowing people to live their lives to the extent that spending a lot of time in bomb shelters is living in Sderot, in Ashkelon, and in all these communities around there. So this Iron Dome system has proved critically important. And Nick, you talked about rockets still coming from Gaza. It's important to point out, the last time I was reporting from Gaza City during bombardments, during a back and forth between Israel and Hamas, you could see when you were in Gaza City, you could see Hamas rockets being fired from civilian areas, from regular streets, from residential areas, from buildings all around. So the launch pads for Hamas rockets move around and are also amidst residential buildings.
Yes, and Hamas will have dug themselves tunnels and bunkers to store those weapons in. So the missiles, the rockets, they're right there close to that launch location, just a few meters away. So what they do is they minimize their time on the ground. They'll keep those rocket systems in bunkers under houses. They'll come out into the orchard behind the houses and then set them off and then go back underground in tunnels and into those deep bunkers where they know they can get some safety from the shells that are likely to follow in. And we've just heard a round of explosions coming from Gaza, so it would seem that there was return fire. It sounded like artillery being fired back in. But yes, Hamas hide among the population. And again, to your point, it is very difficult for the Israeli Defense Forces to target those launch sites without the risk and actual collateral damage, without civilians getting killed and injured. And that's what we've been witnessing over the past few days. The death toll among Palestinians, 11,
It's also,
I think it was UN workers today among casualties. Yeah,
and worth pointing out, those underground tunnels are for Hamas militants, not for civilians to hide in. Those are for the movement of weapons, perhaps the keeping of hostages, but allow for movement under the ground in tunnels of Hamas, not the civilian population to shelter in. Nick Robertson, thanks very much.
Very much so. Yeah.
Action and a reminder of how quickly things can change in the Middle East. Anderson, thank you so much. We should note we are anticipating remarks by Secretary of State Antony Blinken at any moment. He landed in Israel a short time ago. We're also following breaking news on Capitol Hill, where House Republicans have nominated Congressman Steve Scalise of Louisiana to become the 56th Speaker of the House. Let's take you now live to Capitol Hill with CNN's Lauren Fox and Manu Raju. Lauren, first, let's go to you. We're just learning that there was a meeting between Congressman Scalise and Jim Jordan, who he defeated to get the Republican nomination.
Right, and there's a huge question looming right now, Boris, and that is whether or not Jim Jordan is going to get behind Steve Scalise or not, as there are many of his allies who have already said that right now they want to stand by Jim Jordan on the floor of the House if it were to come up for a vote. And I want to read you a tweet from Thomas Massey. He just tweeted, quote, "Surprises are for little kids at birthday parties, not Congress. So I let Scalise know in person that he doesn't have my vote on the floor because he has not articulated a viable plan for avoiding an omnibus." I just want to rewind a little bit. Back in the room behind me, the House Republican Conference voted to nominate Steve Scalise by a simple majority. That vote was 111 to 99, but that is a far cry from the 217 votes that Steve Scalise will actually need on the floor. So that is what we are watching very closely right now. How does Steve Scalise begin to try to lock up that support? And obviously Jim Jordan is a big factor here into whether or not he can do that quickly.
Lauren Fox, live from Capitol Hill. Let's go to Manu Raju, who is also there for us. Manu, you've been trying to catch lawmakers as they've been walking through the halls. What's the latest you're hearing?
Yeah, we are still uncertain about when the exact timing of that floor vote is going to be to elect the next Speaker of the House. And we're also uncertain about whether or not Steve Scalise can actually get the votes. As you heard Lauren just say, Thomas Massey being one of those members who is still not certain about whether to get behind Scalise. And one member also told me that
Manu,
Scalise
we're actually going to interrupt you because Secretary of State Antony Blinken is now giving remarks in Israel. Let's listen.
On behalf of the American people, and that is that the United States has Israel's back. We have the back of the Israeli people. We have their back today. We'll have it tomorrow. We will have it every day. We stand resolutely against terrorism. We've seen the almost undescribable acts committed by Hamas against Israeli men, women, and children. Every day, we're learning more, and it is simply heartbreaking. Not since ISIS have we seen this kind of depravity, and we will continue to stand very resolutely against it. When I'm in Israel, I'll have the opportunity to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Herzog, other senior officials, I look forward to seeing our embassy team as well that's been doing terrific work during these difficult days. We're determined to make sure that Israel gets everything it needs to defend itself, to provide for the security of its people. Already, significant military assistance requested by Israel is on the way. That's on top of everything that we've been doing for years, including with the memorandum of understanding that was negotiated by President Obama to make sure that Israel has what it needs to defend itself. At the same time, we anticipate there'll be further needs, further requests. We've already been working closely with Congress on this, and we look forward to continuing to do that to make sure that Israel has what it needs. Second, we will be reaffirming the very strong message that President Biden has delivered to any country or any party that might try to take advantage of this situation. And that message is don't. The President has deployed, as you know, the world's largest aircraft carrier group to the region to make very clear our intent to deter anyone contemplating any further aggression against Israel. Finally, we're of course very focused on our own people, our own citizens. We lost 22 Americans. That number could still go up, and it probably will. At the same time, we have a number of Americans who remain unaccounted. We are working very closely with the government of Israel to determine their whereabouts and if they have been taken hostage by Hamas, to work to secure their release. So all of these things are on the agenda over the next day or so with Israel, but the main point is this. We stand with Israel. We'll continue to do so. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, yesterday Jake Sullivan said the U.S. officials were talking to the Israelis about getting civilian safe passage through Gaza into Egypt. Today, John Kirby said they're still talking to the officials about this. What is the holdup? What's the obstacle to getting civilian safe passage out of Gaza?
John, we are talking about that. We're talking to Israel about that. We're talking to Egypt about that. It's an ongoing conversation. I can't get into the details. Some of this is, needless to say, and understandably complicated, but we want to make sure to the best of our ability, and I know Israel wants to make sure to the best of its ability that civilians are not harmed. But Israel has to take steps to defend itself. It has to make sure that any ongoing threat is dealt with, and I believe it has to make sure that going forward, what happened doesn't happen again.
Is the issue more on the Israeli side or the Egypt side?
I'm not going to get into the details, but it's an ongoing conversation.
And following up on that, in conversations between the U.S. and Israel, has the U.S. advocated any degree of restraint in terms of possible ground operations in Gaza, either for the sake of the civilians there or for the sake of hostages for them?
Well, again, I'm not getting into any of the operational details of what Israel may or may not do. I think you heard the President speak to this yesterday in his very, very strong and forceful comments. And of course, what separates Israel, the United States, and other democracies when it comes to incredibly difficult situations like this is our respect for international law and, as appropriate, the laws of war. We do everything we can to make sure that in these situations we avoid civilian casualties. That is in direct contrast with Hamas, which uses people as human shields. It actually seeks to put Palestinian civilians in situations where they could be harmed. This is very much part of their game plan. So we know that Israel will take all of the precautions that it can, just as we would. And again, that's what separates us from Hamas and terrorist groups that engage in the most heinous kind of activities. Thank you. We'll have a chance to talk later. Thank you.
That was Secretary of State Antony Blinken at Joint Base Andrews as he departs for Israel. A number of notable comments from the Secretary of State reiterating the United States' continued support of Israel. He talked about the almost undescribable acts that were committed by Hamas, and notably the Secretary of State reiterating something the President said yesterday, noting that any party or state that would seek to exploit the situation in Israel should stay away. He talked about carrier groups by the United States being put into the region, clearly a tacit message to not only Hezbollah and Lebanon, but Iran as well. He did talk about determining the number of Americans who were still missing and perhaps being held hostage by Hamas. And he talked about working closely with Congress to provide aid for Israel. We'll, of course, keep monitoring the Secretary of State's trip. But on that last note about providing aid to Israel from Congress, a lot of breaking news on Capitol Hill. We want to get straight to Manu Raju. Manu, there were some questions about whether we would see a vote on the House floor today, potentially to confirm Steve Scalise as the 56th Speaker of the House. But that vote, we've learned, is not happening today. And also we've learned that he will likely get support from his rival in the nomination process, the Congressman from Ohio, Jim Jordan.
Yeah, that's right. We are not expecting the House to vote this afternoon. This coming from a source who told our colleague Melanie Zanona that the House will actually come in at 3 p.m. this afternoon and recess for the day. And we do expect that Congressman Jim Jordan, who has been coy about whether or not he would actually support Steve Scalise after they battled it out behind closed doors and he lost the nominating contest to Scalise. Well, he plans to nominate Scalise on the floor of the House to be the next Speaker. This is a welcome news for Scalise, undoubtedly, because he will need Jordan's support, the backing of Jordan allies, in order to get over the finish line. But that doesn't mean that he will have the votes to be elected. In fact, there are a number of members who are simply not there. Some of them are saying that they will potentially vote for another candidate altogether on the floor, or they want to hear more from Scalise, want to have meetings from him, asking for potential deals, potential concessions, things that we saw Kevin McCarthy have to do to win the win the speakership after 15 ballots back in January. And in a warning sign to Scalise, one Republican member told me that Scalise will, quote, never be elected Speaker. That was the words of this one Republican member. We'll see if that actually comes out to be true. But a sign of the challenges that the Speaker nominee Scalise faces here because of the same issues that Kevin McCarthy faced. A narrowly divided Republican majority where any 5 members can scuttle your plans and can push you out of the speakership. Now Scalise will have to figure out behind the scenes how to appease those critics, what deals to make with them in order to get the votes to be elected Speaker. Because until that point, nothing will get done in this House. It will remain paralyzed as it has been since the ouster of Kevin McCarthy last week. Until they elect another Speaker, no aid to Israel, which the President has called for as soon as next week. No aid to Ukraine, which has been stalled for some time, and no action towards avoiding a government shutdown by mid-November. All key issues Republicans say they want to start to tackle, but without a Speaker, nothing can be done. Scalise will have to get the votes. Can he get there? Huge questions ahead, Boris.
Yeah, and they will not be answered today. Again, the news, no vote coming on the confirmation of a House Speaker later today, and the potential for Jim Jordan to endorse Scalise as Speaker as well. Manu Raju, please stand by. Keep us posted with what you learn. Let's expand the conversation now with CNN's Dana Bash, Jamie Gangel, and Jeff Zeleny. Dana, what does it say to you that there is not going to be a vote today?
He doesn't have the votes. I mean, he doesn't have them. When you get the votes, you go and you take them. I mean, we were asking, and Manu was asking our entire Hill team, we're trying to figure out whether or not, even in the face of not actually having 217 locked up, he would try to push the vote and make it happen on the floor. And very clearly, the way that the leadership inside the Republican conference right now is seeing this is as a situation where they don't want to have the spectacle. Manu just said this. They don't want to have the spectacle that we had in January, where McCarthy just did it on the House floor and we had 15 rounds. Particularly, not just because it would be an illustration of dysfunction within the House Republican Conference. Most importantly, you have what you just saw from Antony Blinken standing at Joint Base Andrews, talking about standing with Israel, getting on a plane to go to Israel. That image with a split screen of the House actually in total disarray and not able to get a House Speaker, even for those who don't care that much about the image of a functioning government, sees that is a problem in today's times.
Yeah, Jeff, do you sense a loss of momentum here for Scalise, that he's not putting this for a vote today?
It certainly isn't ideal. I think any time that you can do something quickly on the Hill, it avoids the lack of the uncertainty and the unknown. I do think one thing that also has happened really in the last few moments is that Jim Jordan, who's the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, who will go on to keep doing his job in the impeachment inquiry and other things, he says that he will support Steve Scalise. So that's a very important development. The question is, will all of the 99 people who voted for him? Well, my guess is most of them will. This is probably a moment where cooler heads will prevail, except they have seen that one or two members can spoil things. So what is happening now is looking for specific deals, looking for specific extractions potentially from Steve Scalise. But I think if we should just step back for a moment, former President Donald Trump, he endorsed Jim Jordan. He did not win. So what is the former president going to do in this? My guess is he has an okay relationship with Steve Scalise. And Steve Scalise certainly is plenty Trumpy enough, if you want to use that expression. So my guess is this moves forward. It will just take a day, but uncertainty on Capitol Hill, the measure of time usually is not helpful for things.
You have to wonder whether the votes would have been different, if there would have been more votes for Jordan, if it wasn't a secret ballot after all. He was endorsed by the former president. Jamie, your reaction to Jordan now moving forward with an endorsement of Scalise?
Well, that is good news for Steve Scalise, except the word but. It wasn't enough to hold a vote today. There is something I think we should mention, and that is about Matt Gaetz, who actually is supporting Steve Scalise. He said, quote, "I'm excited for him. Can't wait to go vote for Steve Scalise. Long live Speaker Scalise." So he has Matt Gaetz's vote, but on the other hand, our Hill team has been going through, Jeremy Herb has a note here, of member after member who says, not my vote, or not yet, or no. Yeah. And so we're back to the horse trading, we're back to the deal making, but there could be maybe not the Matt Gaetz 8, but a different group of holdouts here.
And some who voted to get rid of McCarthy are not yet ready to support Scalise. And I'm putting my hand over here because it's my right side of the Republican conference. And then you have what Mike Lawler just told you recently, in the last hour on air, Boris. He is about as moderate as it gets. He's from the swingiest of swing districts.
The Biden district.
A Biden district, one of the 18 Republicans who won in a Biden district, who is also not ready to support Steve Scalise. Doesn't mean that they won't ultimately, but they want to, as they say on Capitol Hill, they're not going to do it for free.
Yeah. What will Scalise give up to ultimately get to 217? Dana, Jamie, Jeff, a pleasure as always. Thanks so much for the conversation. Back to our other breaking news now. Israel at war and the conflicting intelligence on what and when Iran knew about the surprise attack from Hamas. Stay with CNN. We're back in moments.
Need to get your windshield fixed? SafeLight makes it easy. You can schedule in just a few clicks, and we'll come to you with the replacement you can trust. It's great. Get service on your time. Schedule now.
SafeLight Repair, SafeLight Replace.
If you're thinking about going back to school, this is for you.
I ended up spending less money my entire time at SNHU than I did in just 1 year at my other university.
My time at SNHU has given me more confidence. Now I can go for that promotion.
If you're ready to go back to school, you can do it. Southern New Hampshire University has changed my life, and it can change yours too.
Visit snhu.edu. This bakery needs new equipment fast to keep up with demand, so they're going to OnDeck, the online lender that makes it easy to choose your loan and, if approved, get funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
Finding it hard to discover affordable wine you love? Try Firstly. We deliver award-winning bottles at up to 60% off retail prices. No middleman, just great wine at a great price. Discover wine you're guaranteed to love at firstleaf.com/discover.
Hi, it's Christina again. I'm here to tell you about an all-new special offer from my friends at Jacuzzi Bath Remodel that you don't want to miss. You already know, Jacuzzi has been making water feel great for more than 65 years. And now, they're bringing you this special TV offer. We're waiving all installation costs and postponing all payments for 1 year. Jacuzzi Bath Remodel has a design you'll love at a price you can afford. And, best of all, They can install it in as little as 1 day with no stress and no mess. Are you ready to see your new shower? Here it is.
It's fabulous! Taking a shower had gone from being a joy to being a burden. I was afraid I would fall. I called, and just 1 day, I had a shower I could feel safe in.
No matter your situation, Jacuzzi Bath Remodel has a solution for you. From a safer, easy entry shower with features like grab bars and a custom seat to keep you feeling comfortable and independent at home, to a stunning family bath, or how about a luxurious upgrade with a timeless design that will look great for years to come. Plus, they're built to last with a lifetime warranty from an iconic brand you know you can trust.
It was done the same day. We did not have to wait.
It's absolutely perfect. It's exactly what I was dreaming of.
If you haven't already experienced what Jacuzzi Bath Remodel can do for you, your family, and your home, don't wait any longer. Now is the best time to call. It's never been easier. Take advantage of this special TV offer today.
Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-321-0299. That's 800-321-0299. Call now.
Okay, everyone, our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and Ensure Complete with 30 grams of protein.
There's certainly a lot of questions and concerns about what role, if any, Iran may have played in all of this. Did Iran know something in advance, and when did they know it? That's a question high-level officials have been in the U.S. and Israel and elsewhere have been scrambling to try to answer. Whether or not Iran played a role in planning or approving the sophisticated terror attacks that took place here starting Saturday morning, launched by Hamas against Israel. And we are now hearing some conflicting assessments at this stage, and it is pretty early in this whole process. I want to bring us in as Alex Marquardt and Matthew Chance to try to walk us through what we have learned and what they are hearing from various sources. Alex Marquardt, let's start off with you. What are you hearing from sources about the U.S. intelligence community's assessment?
Well, here in Washington, Anderson, from intelligence officials, from people who've been briefed on the intelligence, from administration officials, what we're told is that there is no smoking gun that says that Iran was kept in the loop in terms of the planning, the execution, the approval of this attack. They're certainly not ruling it out, but they're saying for now there is no proof of that. No one is denying, Anderson, that Iran bears massive responsibility for whatever Hamas does. The only reason that Hamas has the power that it does is because of the years and years and millions of dollars of backing that Iran has given to Hamas. Funding, training, weapons, components. So they were certainly able to carry out this attack because of that support from Iran, and that's why the administration is saying that Iran is broadly complicit in the attack. They just don't have the proof that they were directly involved in this attack. I did speak with a senior Israeli official who said that he would find it hard to believe that Iran didn't know, but as far as U.S. intelligence is concerned, they don't have that hard evidence. We know that the Israeli and American intelligence communities are going back through previous evidence to see if they've overlooked anything, to see if they can find a closer tie between Iran and this specific attack. Anderson.
Right. And Matthew, I know you've been talking to Israeli officials as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, there's a lot of overlap between what the US says and what Israeli officials say. They both agree, as Alex was saying, that Iran is complicit. It has provided long-standing support, weapons, political backing to the Hamas militant group in Gaza. But it's a question of how much direct influence they had, how much direct commitment they had to this appalling operation that killed so many Israelis. And what this Israeli official that I spoke to told me, and he's somebody who's familiar with the latest Israeli intelligence, is that he said that Israeli intelligence had told him that that Iran essentially green-lighted this operation. They didn't know about the timing. They didn't know that it was going to cause perhaps such tragic consequences with so many Israelis killed, but they were aware that the operation was in the planning stage, and they green-lighted it in that sense. I thought it was a good. They green-lighted the concept of it, and that's slightly different to having no direct involvement. There's all but not as much as saying, look, Iran orchestrated this as the puppet master for Hamas. They were involved, perhaps they didn't know the appalling consequences of this operation and the geopolitical impact it was going to have, but they knew it was in a planning stage.
And Alex, just to be clear, from what you're hearing, it sounds like the U.S. is not ruling out the potential possibility that they will learn more information. Just at this stage, they have information that some senior Iranian officials were surprised about the operation. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's not more information to learn. Is that correct?
That's right, and those are the Iranian officials that they're aware of, that clearly they've been monitoring in some fashion. We are told by intelligence officials that there was a certain level of surprise among senior Iranian officials about this attack, but to Matthew's point, that could be surprise about the timing, that could be surprise about the barbarity. When you talk to experts and former officials, Anderson, Iran's MO essentially, when it comes to groups like Hamas and then Hezbollah to the north in Lebanon, is essentially to create these proxies, to give them the funding, the resources they need, the power they need, the equipment they need to operate in the geography, and a shared understanding of what they're supposed to do. And in both those cases, Hamas and Hezbollah, it's to attack Israel. So there isn't necessarily a need for Iran to be aware of everything and on top of everything, because it's understood that Iran is giving Hamas that support so they can go after Israel. Anderson.
Matthew, when you're talking to Israeli officials, what are you hearing about what they think a potential next step in Gaza is?
Well, I mean, look, I think Israeli officials have set out pretty clearly that they intend to go in on the land to root out Hamas and to end it as a military organisation, so it doesn't have the capability to carry out the same kinds of attacks.
Which would obviously be an operation the scale of which we have not seen in many years.
I mean, I've been reporting from this region for a couple of decades, and I've been in Gaza many times and seen Israeli incursions, some of them absolutely brutal. But I think what we're looking at now is an operation on a different scale of magnitude. Not only have you got that massively densely populated area, the network of tunnels running underneath it, which are exclusively used by militants like Hamas, you've also got those 150 or so hostages, which adds an extra dimension of complication to any military operation.
Matthew Chance, thanks very much. Alex Marquardt as well. Joining me now is Ryan Crocker, the former U.S. ambassador to Syria and Lebanon. Ambassador Crocker, I appreciate you being with us. Let's talk about Iran. What do you make of, there's agreement between certainly U.S. officials and Israeli officials about broad responsibilities by Iran, but about the level of involvement in this Hamas terror attacks.
Well, thanks for having me, Anderson. I listened to your conversation just now with Matthew and Alex. I come down to pretty much the same place. There may not be any specific intelligence directly tying Iran to this operation in all its phases, but the question of Iran supporting Hamas in every way they can is not a question. It has not been for a number of years. So in essence, I don't think the specificity matters that much. The Iranians provided them with the capabilities, the overall direction. There is really no substantive issue out there as far as I can see. And we have to bear in mind that both the Israeli intelligence network and our own missed some pretty big stuff here, like the entire offensive operation. So the fact that they can't find a smoking gun in Iranian hands specifically just I think is not all that relevant. Iran is the largest supplier and supporter of both Hamas and Hezbollah. That's what really counts.
I want to talk to you about what is going on now behind the scenes diplomatically. It seems as if, and Jake Sullivan spoke to this yesterday, President Biden's national security advisor, that there are discussions about what to do with American citizens who are living in Gaza and want to get out, and what to do about civilians in Gaza. Obviously, more than 2 million people live in Gaza. Egypt, on the border on the south, has always been very resistant to allowing Gazans to leave and go into Egypt. Is that the only option? And do you think they can come to some sort of agreement to allow whether it's small numbers of Gazan citizens every day to leave, along with American citizens in Gaza? How do you think that's going to work out?
Yeah, it's really a problem from hell, and a reminder that in the Middle East, there are almost never any completely good options. There are bad options and there are worse options. And the reality that Israel and the supporters led by us are looking at is the fact that if they launch a major operation into Gaza, what about the hostages? The Hamas has already said they start killing them, and may have already done so in a most horrific way. So we've got to try to factor that in. What can be done to ensure that the hostages, Americans among them, are not summarily executed? The Egypt option for the broader population, I think, is the only option that is possible. That is just politically unthinkable. Frankly, right now, to imagine that Israel could take Gazan civilians in on their territory. So I hope very much, I'm sure we're working overtime on this, that we'll get the Egyptians to agree to that. We're going to need to get the United Nations involved in setting up very swiftly some large camp areas. But I think that is very, very important. And I think that also is the really the only way forward to deal as well with the hostage situation, to find a way to signal to Hamas that if they start killing hostages, Israeli or American, that is going to go for them from bad to worse. And as you mentioned earlier, I think we've now got our top diplomat on his way to Israel. We also have a carrier strike group heading to the Eastern Med, and back in the day I would refer to an aircraft carrier as 100,000 tons of diplomacy. That is the muscle that goes along with the politics on this for anyone who might be thinking of escalating this, particularly, I would say, Iran. But it really is the problem from hell. How Israel cannot see the moral high ground that Hamas has really given them by inflicting what the world would see as huge suffering on the Gaza population. So we've got to figure out how to make this safe haven thing work.
I do think it's worth mentioning that these tunnels that Hamas has built under Gaza City and elsewhere, I mean, these are tunnels not for the civilian population to hide in. There's not secure bomb shelters that Hamas has built for civilian populations. They have built these tunnels for themselves to move weapons, to move militants.
Well, that is exactly right, and I cannot imagine that Hamas is suddenly going to have a change of heart here and start moving its Palestinian citizens into those tunnels. That's simply not going to happen. Which is again, I think, why the Egyptian option into the Sinai on a temporary basis is the only thing that could possibly work.
Yeah, Ambassador Ryan Crocker, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anderson.
Up next, the human toll. I'll speak to a woman who has lost a number of her family in the terror attacks that began here on Saturday. We'll be right back.
One down, 9 to go.
Hey, what are you doing out here?
I just had something picked up.
Oh my gosh, I'm having something delivered.
Carvana.
You know Carvana. Bought it, scheduled it, and here it is.
You think Carvana's good for buying? You should try selling one.
Buy
or sell
your car with Carvana today.
Something unexpected has arrived from Experian, the new Experian Smart Money debit card and digital checking account. It finds payments that could erase your credit scores without the debt. Get your new Experian Smart Money account through the Experian app.
This October 10th and 11th, Prime Big Deal Days give Prime members exclusive access to 2 days of big savings, which means you're kind of a big deal. Prime Big Deal Days, on now, only for Prime members.
We've got questions about Medicare plans.
Well, we've got a lot of answers. How can I help?
Well, for starters, do you have a Medicare plan I can actually afford?
How about a plan with a $0 monthly premium?
Well, that's a great start. What other benefits can we get?
Things like dental, vision, and hearing. But let me help you pick the plan that's right for you.
Ooh.
Don't wait. Call 1-888-65-ATLANTA to get answers to your questions and pick a plan that's right for you. And let's make healthier happen together.
With fast signs, create custom graphics that get tails and tongues wagging. Fast signs, make your statement.
Does someone who threatens Putin's power ever die unintentionally in Russia?
I don't think so. He just leaves all this carnage in his wake.
Do you think he cares about that?
No, he doesn't.
The Source with Caitlin Collins, tonight at 9.
Stop! I am a good zombie! This October,
Trick or treat!
spirits come home to rest all month long.
This place is really haunted. What a weird mystery.
With Hollow Stream on Disney Plus.
We're gonna scare you. Boom.
Home is where the hunt is.
It's time.
Even a term policy?
Even a term policy!
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-461-8800 or visit coventrydirect.com.
I started experiencing ED. I knew I had to do something about it.
You go online, you answer the medical questions.
The medication is at my house within a couple of days.
Because it is effective, I say I'm on a second honeymoon.
Get started today with RexMD.com.
I'm Zachary Cohen in Washington, and this is CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
We only represent mesothelioma victims and their families. Call for a free book.
Call 800-282-4444 or go to Mesobook.com.
The full horror of what has occurred here, the atrocities that have occurred here, are really now just really coming to light. We know about the slaughter that took place at that music festival, more than 260 people. We have seen what happened in Kfir Aza just yesterday, infants killed, families slaughtered. Near Oz is another kibbutz where atrocities occurred. A grandmother was shot while hiding in a safe room. In these kibbutzes, everybody had a safe room. A grandmother was shot while hiding in a safe room. Her son was killed along with his wife and their 3 children. Those 3 children were all under the age of 5 years old. That is the family we're showing you right now. That family is now mourning the loss of all of them. Joining us is Renee Butler. Her mother was the woman killed in the safe room. Her brother and his family were the others who were slaughtered in that attack in Near Oz. Renee, I'm so sorry for what has occurred. You're born in the U.S., you moved to Israel with your parents. Talk about your brother, his wife, the kids, your mother. How are you holding up?
Well, my brother was a farmer. He was working in fields. He was taking care of the fields. He was head of the fields. His wife was such an amazing woman, as her beautiful children too. On that day in the morning, we had missiles in Tel Aviv at 6:30 a.m. and I sent a message to my family, "Are you okay?" Because if they're in Tel Aviv, they should be there. And my brother wrote, "Stay safe." Later, I was checking in on them and I got messages from my father, hostages. I said, "What? No." And it was, "Yes, what can I do? Call the army." I was writing with my family, receiving messages from them, forwarding the messages to whoever I could. My brother at some point, because he was in the safe room with his babies, twin daughters and his son, 2-year-old son, he put on a Viking helmet. He held a screwdriver. He was in his boxers because everyone ran to safe rooms from their beds early Saturday morning. He held the handle of the safe room and he made a face to make fun, to make everyone okay. They were writing, trying to do things, understand, and then the messages came. They're here, they're burning us, we're suffocating. Him and his wife were shot through the window. They managed to keep the window closed. They decided no one is taking them. They decided they'll suffocate, smoke inhalation together, and they held up while wounded. Great bravery. I'm so proud of them. My mom too, she was in the safe room with her dog, and she fought. and therefore she was shot and not taken. Great loss. Such a big, a beautiful tribe we had. Half of our family is gone. The children are torn. This is our life. This is our love. My brother really reminds me of Life is Beautiful, Roberto Benigni, making his jokes and trying to keep things light in the face of horrific doomsday scenario.
Renee.
Yeah.
Renee, could you tell us that your brother's name and his wife and the children's names?
Of course. My brother was Jonathan, Johnny. Everyone called him Johnny. Tamari is my sister-in-law. She was running for the council of the area of a bunch of villages. She was such uplifting, so many values, such quality human being. The family was all in this together. They're so amazing. What else did you ask about them?
The children's names and your mother's name.
Their names.
I think it's important that everybody hear their
My
names.
mom is Carol. We're all American, by the way. My mother's Carol Simantov. My brother was Johnny. We have 70 dead, 70 kidnapped from the kibbutz. It's like quarter of everyone that we had. The twins are Arbel and Shachal, and the young baby was Omen, his name. The dog was Charlie, the boxer. Oh,
how do you go on? How do you get through the day?
How have I been through the day? What?
Yeah. How are you getting through each day?
First of all, we have survivors. We have kids. I had 14 nieces and nephews. I have 11 now. Another brother of mine was head of security. He was one of the guys who were fighting. Barely, put on their pants and boots and ran and fought bravery, and he was shot. But he's alive. He's with us. He was wounded. I'm not even there because this is not over. We're crying and hugging. When we're being terrorized, we're terrorized, but we're not afraid. This is very satanic, very obvious, very detailed on how it's okay to kill Jews. It was insanity that people think it's in the name of God, but it's so satanic. So I don't know, people are screwed. It's
there are many families who were killed at Nir Oz, who were killed at Kfir Azah. These kibbutzim,
Yes.
these are agrarian communities. These were communities where all the families knew each other, where all the families supported each other. In Nir Oz, I think there was a population of some 300 to maybe 400 people total.
Yes. Yes.
Do you have any idea yet how many people from Nir Oz were killed or are missing at this point? Because I know I talked to a woman yesterday whose cousin and her two boys, she believes they have been kidnapped. There's video of them being taken, as well as that woman's husband, as well as her aunt and her uncle. I mean, it seems like horror came to all these families.
Yes, about a fourth of the community is gone or missing.
A fourth of the community.
Or dead or missing. Others are wounded. Everyone is for everyone. All the survivors decided to stay together when we were evacuated, and that's what we're doing. They had
Renee.
really, yes.
I'm so sorry for what you're going through, what your family continues to go through, and all the families from Nir Oz. I appreciate you being with us, and I wish you continued strength and peace in the days
Can
ahead.
I just tell you how professional they were with having a bunch
Yes.
of looters, having a bunch of murderers, and having the ones who burned and blew gas and rolled paper under people's doors to smoke them out. Really, they were so prepared for this.
Renee Butler,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm sorry.
I am too.
This is CNN Breaking News.
You're watching CNN News Central. I'm Boris Sanchez in Washington, D.C., where we have just learned the House will not be voting on a new speaker today. Republicans just nominated Congressman Steve Scalise for the job. We're going to have more on that, but we want to start with CNN's Anderson Cooper, who is live for us in Tel Aviv, Israel. Anderson?
Boris, thanks very much. 300,000 Israeli troops are massed near the Gaza border. Hamas rockets continue to be fired toward Israel, and the civilian toll of the death toll is coming into greater view. The toll of horror and atrocity is coming into view. The Israeli Prime Minister's office has confirmed that Israeli soldiers discovered decapitated babies in Kfar Aza. We heard about this for the first time yesterday. That was cited as one of the worst Hamas attacks over the weekend. Hamas denies it attacked children, but the unprecedented slaughter of hundreds of Israeli civilians has led to a fierce response, and we know children have been killed in many locations here in Israel by Hamas. Airstrikes have pounded Hamas targets in Gaza for days. Gaza's only power station is inoperable, and hospitals are running out of fuel to power generators as the territory remains under a blockade. Among those dead in Gaza, at least 11 UN workers. Right now, there are behind-the-scenes talks underway, as we talked about in our last hour, on a number of fronts. One, to try and free and locate dozens of hostages held by Hamas, including Americans. We don't know how many Americans, and to allow somehow civilians and U.S. citizens to leave Gaza through Egypt ahead of a potential Israeli ground operation. Those talks are underway. We don't know how they will resolve. CNN's Nick Robertson has posted in Sderot, Israel, for us. Nick, in our last hour, we saw Iron Dome interceptor rockets going up to knockout rockets coming from Gaza, and there was firefighting on the ground. Talk about what has been going on.
Yeah, since we last talked, Anderson, it's gone strangely quiet and calm, although in the last couple of seconds we thought we were seeing some intercept rockets being fired up towards Ashkelon, but I'm not seeing anything at the moment, so it's a couple of heavy detonations there. I suspect that's artillery, heavy artillery. There are a number of heavy artillery batteries in the fields around here. I suspect that's being fired into Gaza, that we may hear some soft well, not soft, but distant impacts from that shortly. The small arms fire we talked about just an hour and a half ago that was over the hill, where a couple of Hamas militants were caught, neutralized is the euphemism used here, by the Israeli Defense Forces just over the hill here, 2 miles inside of Israel. That small arms fire picked up at about half an hour ago. Some flares were fired up in the sky, illumination flares. I think that was done to give the troops better visibility on the ground on the situation for what they were firing towards. It kind of indicates that the bulk of the firefight was over, it was done, but they really wanted to check the terrain, because if you light the terrain to see the enemy, they can also see you. So the flares were up, and that operation seemed to sort of wrap up as well. But again, the situation here it changes on a dime, and it's artillery again that's being fired in now. I mean, I think interestingly today, at this end of the Gaza Strip, remembering we're way up at the northern end of the Gaza Strip behind us there, we haven't heard any huge impacts from missiles dropped by aircraft. It doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but we haven't seen that this evening. It's been mostly the artillery fire, Anderson.
And the preparations for the next phase of this, have you seen much on that front?
Significantly more groups of armored fighting vehicles, of troops in transit, in fighting jeeps with their heavy machine gun on top of the jeep, soldiers at the side of the jeep, the weapons pointed out at the ready. We've seen dug in heavy howitzer gun positions. These are those big, they're big like tank-like vehicles, huge, heavy, massive tracks, but the gun on the front of them, unlike a tank, the gun can go up really high. And what that means is it can fire so much further. So these heavy artillery guns, the defense forces can really range them over a large part of Gaza with a high degree of accuracy. And again, I think that what we understand is they're being used to take out, try to take out or prevent the use of some of the launch sites. Obviously tonight, on that, hard to judge a success, but rockets have been launched nonetheless.
And in terms of the civilian population in Sderot, did a lot of families leave this area already? Or are they still there?
It's really, no, mostly it feels like a ghost town. I think that there are a few families here. I think they're staying indoors. But even for anyone that stays here, the stores are all shut. The gas stations in the town are shut. There's no cafes open. The only places that are open are the military posts, the police posts, and the ambulance stations. Everything else is locked up. So it really is a ghost town. Just checking back, I don't think I've seen any civilians, or maybe one or two, walking around the streets today. They're just not around at the moment, Anderson.
All right, Nick Robertson, thanks very much. Joining me now is Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus. He's an international spokesperson for the Israeli Defense Forces. Lieutenant Colonel, appreciate you being with us. I just spoke to a woman whose family has been slaughtered in Nir Oz, one of many families who was killed there. Do you have a sense at this stage of, I mean, she was saying out of 300 or 400 people who lived in Nir Oz before Saturday, about 1/4 of them have been killed in this attack. Are those kind of the numbers you are hearing as well?
Yes, hello, thank you for having me on. Those are unfortunately also the numbers that I have. It varies from community to community, but Nir Oz, Be'eri, Kfar Aza, many other communities, that's the proportion of Israeli civilians that have been executed in their homes by Hamas, indeed.
And it's important to point that out. I mean, these are executions. These are not people getting caught in crossfire. This is not people getting killed by a rocket and shrapnel. This is gunmen, killers coming to houses, breaking into safe rooms, throwing gas into safe rooms, shooting babies, killing mothers. That's what this is. It's looking people in the eye and killing them.
Yes, this is as up close and personal as you can get. And I think that the level of hatred that you need to develop in a human being in order to perpetrate these acts that we have seen documented, it's not rumors and it's not, the Israelis are claiming that. There's unfortunately forensic proof on the ground. Forensic proof in the shape of bodies of dismembered Israeli civilians, and it hurts me to use those words, but that is what we have found on the ground. And I'd like to go back and focus attention on a statement made by Hamas spokesperson Abu Obaida about the day after the operation, their attack, their assault on Israel. When asked, he said that the operation has gone as planned and that they were very happy with the results. And when you add that statement, an official statement by Hamas, and what we've seen, the pictures that we've seen, and the evidence on the ground, you understand that this was not some unit that went crazy or some terrorists who got carried away with themselves. This was a systematic, pre-planned assault on Israeli communities, and the aim was to butcher civilians, and that is unfortunately what they did.
And the hostages who have been taken, many of them from these communities, the woman named Shiri who was taken, and her two children, Ariel and a younger child, 4 years old and 9 months old, they were taken by the same people who killed other people in these communities. They were taken as part and policy of what Hamas wants. They are killing people in these kibbutzes and then also taking significant numbers of people from these kibbutzes to use.
Yes, that is the strategy. Hamas is most likely hoping and building on that they will take these poor Israeli civilians, tender, peace-loving, and gentle people who live in a quiet kibbutz, a small community, and they are hoping that they will drag them over to Gaza and then get political gains or release of Hamas terrorists from Israeli prisons. I don't know how distorted their worldview is and in what reality they think that is a practice that will achieve anything but global outrage against them. But I can say that I think they have signed something close to their own death warrant. And an Israeli general said in just a few hours after the attack started and we understood what they were doing, he said that Hamas has opened the floodgates of hell on Gaza. And I think that is, it's proportionate because what Hamas has done is an unprecedented level of brutality, something that Israel has never seen, and I don't think that any other sovereign country has seen this level of brutality. Definitely not a Western democracy. So what Hamas has done is beyond a comparison to anything else. We are going to deal with it, and it will be our job to make sure that Hamas will never, ever have the ability to do this again.
Lieutenant Colonel Conriquez, thank you for your time. I'm going to go back to Boris Sanchez. Boris?
Yeah, Anderson, we are continuing to follow breaking news out of Capitol Hill. Congressman Steve Scalise winning the Republican nomination for Speaker in a closed-door ballot by just 14 votes. But the path forward to the 217 votes he needs to be confirmed as House Speaker still appears unclear. And after some disagreement, the decision that House members will not move forward on a vote to elect the next Speaker today. Let's take you live to Capitol Hill, where CNN's Manu Raj has been following the action all day. So, Manu, House members will still gather this hour, but not for a Speaker vote, rather a procedural step.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, it just happened, and it's over. The House came in just for a couple of minutes for just a session called a pro forma session on Capitol Hill. They just simply turn on the lights, turn it back off, and that's pretty much it. The person who gavelled it in was Patrick McHenry, who is still the interim speaker, put in that position after that historic vote, the unprecedented vote to oust Kevin McCarthy from the speakership. McHenry was asked by her colleague Haley Talbot when the vote would be for the speakership. He said that is up to Steve Scalise to call that vote. He said Scalise has the right to make a decision about getting his supporters in line and taking it to the floor when he's ready to. But one thing is very clear. Scalise does not have the votes at this moment to be elected Speaker. He needs 217 votes on the House floor. Just moments ago, this afternoon, he was nominated to be the next Speaker of the House by the Republicans, but got 113 votes. That shows you the deficit he has to make up. Now, there are dozens of those members who plan to vote for him, but not all of those members who voted for Jim Jordan are ready to fall in line. Some of them still say they'll vote for Jim Jordan on the floor, including Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I just caught up with and indicated she's not planning to vote for Steve Scalise, and she says others are willing to vote for Jordan on the floor as well.
I'm not supporting Steve Scalise. I'll be voting for Jim Jordan.
And why is that?
Well, Jim Jordan presented a strong plan for us, a detailed plan on how to move forward. We didn't hear that plan from Steve Scalise. It was more vague answers. But there's another situation that's very personal to me. You know, I lost my father in 2021 to cancer, and unfortunately, Steve is going through a cancer battle of his own. And, you know, I like Steve Scalise a lot, and I like him so much. I would like to see him put his full efforts into defeating that.
Now, Scalise has been under treatment for blood cancer, and it's a treatable form of blood cancer. He says he's fully capable of doing the job despite these health challenges. But that shows you the challenge of getting the votes on the House floor. Steve Scalise can only afford to lose 4 Republican votes. Already more than 4 are saying that either they're not going to vote for him or they're not willing to vote for him. So it shows you how Scalise will have to get some of those members in line. But in a key step, Jim Jordan, who he ran against for the speakership in that closed-door meeting this afternoon, has indicated that he will nominate Steve Scalise for speaker and is trying to encourage his supporters also to vote for Scalise on the floor. But as you can hear there, Boris, from one of his supporters there, Marjorie Taylor Greene, simply not willing to vote for Steve Scalise, others not willing as well. And one Republican member also told me that Steve Scalise will never get the 217 votes to be elected speaker. So we'll see if that prediction bears out, but shows you the work ahead and also points to the challenge that Kevin McCarthy had, keeping his conference in line, ensuring he can limit those defections, and those defections ultimately pushing him out of the speakership. Can Scalise avoid all those traps in the days ahead? Big question for him as he tries to become the next Speaker of the House.
Wow. Notably, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is she the first member that you've heard publicly voice concerns, apprehensions about Scalise's health and his blood cancer as a reason to not elect him Speaker?
I've heard a lot of that privately. One member did say something publicly earlier this week. That's Congressman Ralph Norman. He said that was the reason why he was voting for Jim Jordan today in that closed-door session. So he was concerned about Steve Scalise's health. Now, ultimately, Norman, he told reporters this afternoon that he would support Scalise on the floor when that floor vote happens. But there are some members there. But this is a significant comment that she's making, given the fact that he has virtually no margin for error if he wants to be elected Speaker of the House. And if she does not come off that position, if others don't as well, he could have a math problem on the floor, much like Kevin McCarthy did. The question for Scalise is, when does he try to force that vote on the floor? No decision on that quite yet.
A difficult path ahead for Scalise, no doubt about that. Mataraju, thank you so much from Capitol Hill. Aid to Israel and Ukraine. A myriad of issues hanging in the balance in Congress as House Republicans pick their next speaker. We're going to speak to a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee about these issues as soon as we come back. Stay with us.
Welcome to Stormy Heights, where the windows are always Pella, because the weather is always changing. Pella's fiberglass is the strongest material for windows and patio doors. They're tested from -40 degrees Fahrenheit up to 160. The fiberglass frame is even scratch and dent resistant. Pella Windows.
Save on replacement windows by Pella now.
From pep in their step to shine in their coats. When people switch their dog's food to the farmer's dog, the effects can seem like magic. But there's no magic involved. It's just smarter, healthier pet food. It's amazing what real food can do.
My mental health was much better, but I struggled with uncontrollable movements called TD, tardive dyskinesia. TD can be caused by some mental health meds.
And it's unlikely to improve without treatment. I felt like my movements were in the spotlight.
#1 prescribed Ingrezza is the only TD treatment for adults that's always one pill once daily. Ingrezza 80 milligram is proven to reduce TD movements in 7 out of 10 people. People taking Ingrezza can stay on most mental health meds. Ingrezza can cause depression, suicidal thoughts, or actions in patients with Huntington's disease. Pay close attention to and call your doctor if you become depressed, have sudden changes in mood, behaviors, feelings, or have thoughts of suicide. Don't take Ingrezza if you're allergic to its ingredients. Ingrezza may cause serious side effects, including angioedema, potential heart rhythm problems, and abnormal movements. Report fevers, stiff muscles, or problems thinking, as these may be life-threatening. Sleepiness is the most common side effect.
It's nice. People focus more on me.
Ask your doctor about #1 prescribed once daily Ingrezza.
We need a small business loan fast.
I got this.
Loan Falcon!
There's a better way to get a fast small business loan. Go to ondeck.com, and if approved, get your funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
People thinking my daughter is my sister, that never gets old. With Cerevital Advanced, I wake up refreshed.
Cerevital Advanced is an award-winning beauty supplement at Ulta. Get started today at cerevital.com. How do we decide what hotel to book? Fear not.
I got you. Choice Hotels is a hotel for every type of stay. Like a comfort with the kiddos.
Spacious.
That's what they all say. Stay twice and get a free night when you book direct at choicehotels.com.
Type 2 diabetes?
Discover the Ozempic Trizone. Ozempic! I got the power of 3. I lowered my A1C, CD risk, and lost some weight.
In studies, the majority of people reached an A1C under 7 and maintained it.
I'm under 7.
Ozempic lowers the risk of major cardiovascular events such as stroke, heart attack, or death in adults also with known heart disease.
I'm lowering my risk.
Adults lost up to 14 pounds.
I lost some weight.
Ozempic isn't for people with type 1 diabetes. Don't share needles or pens or reuse needles. Don't take Ozempic if you or your family ever had medullary thyroid cancer or have multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2 or if allergic to it. Stop Ozempic and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or an allergic reaction. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Gallbladder problems may occur. Tell your provider about vision problems or changes. Taking Ozempic with a sulfonylurea or insulin may increase low blood sugar risk. Side effects like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may lead to dehydration, which may worsen kidney problems. Living with type 2 diabetes?
Ask about the power of 3 with Ozempic.
Social media. It can be overwhelming for a young homeowner turning into their parents.
Has anyone tried Pilates? Okay, that's what it sounds like when you type in all caps.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto with us.
Teeth sensitivity is so common. It immediately feels like somebody's poking directly on the nerve. I recommend Sensodyne. Sensodyne toothpaste goes inside the tooth and calms the nerve down. And my patients say, you know, doc, it really works.
Breaking news to CNN, we're learning the House will not vote on electing a new speaker today as Congressman Steve Scalise wins the Republican nomination over Jim Jordan. That earlier vote happening behind closed doors on a secret ballot. We want to talk to someone who was there in the room. Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee joins us now. He's one of 8 Republicans who voted last week to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. Congressman, thanks for being with us. You said that you were ready to stay all day. You've also said that you will support Steve Scalise in his bid to become Speaker. Are you disappointed that he's not putting forward a vote on the floor of the House for the speakership right now?
No, actually, I thought we would do that today, but there are a lot of people that aren't here, both Republicans and Democrats. One of my Republican colleagues I know for certain is in Israel right now, so they're obviously having a little trouble getting home. So I think they're just go a little slower, we get there a little faster. I think it has more to do with just complete numbers of the Congress and getting them all here.
Are you confident that Scalise can eventually get to 217 votes?
Yes, sir, I am. He's a proven leader. He raises money. He knows how to recruit candidates. He's handled some of the toughest legislation that's been handled up here, honestly. And I think he understands negotiations. He's fiscally conservative. He's strong on the border. All those things that Republicans rally around. And I think he understands the fact that when you take in $5 trillion a year, you cannot spend $7 trillion, which has been the habit of Washington.
Congressman, what is your message to members like Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican colleague, who says that she opposes Scalise, even though she likes him personally, in part because of concerns over his health?
Well, I would hope that Jim Jordan would talk to some of those folks and further convince them along, because I think Steve, if he's willing to serve and his doctors say he can serve, then I think he's more than qualified, and I think he can handle it. He's been through a lot more medical issues than this, and a lot more than most members of Congress have. So I think he's up to the job, and I think he'll do a fine job.
In an interview with CNN yesterday, you said the conference would come out of today's meeting united, that there wouldn't be 15 rounds of votes to elect a speaker, but there's obviously still disagreement, and not just over Scalise, but whether a vote should have happened today among your conference.
I think the unity is fine. We just have to heal a few wounds, and I think that's what we're doing right now, as well as just getting members here. So we know that we have a majority here. So I think those two things play into it. But also I think the fact that people are just concerned about the country and where it's headed, and that it's headed forward in a conservative manner, which I think the folks that are holding out now for Jim will eventually come over.
Congressman, there are also questions about aid for Israel, and I'm curious about the classified briefing that House members received this morning. Obviously, there are things that you can't share with us about what you learned, but what stood out to you about that briefing that you can share with us?
Well, I've often said when I was, one time when I first got here, if I came 15 minutes late to a classified briefing, I could probably catch it all on CNN pretty quick. So I think that continues to this day. There isn't really a whole lot they tell you in those meetings that you didn't already know or if you didn't suspect. I'm always disappointed in our State Department and their abilities, and they did not disappoint me in that regard at all this time. I'm still disappointed in their abilities and their grasp on world issues and the people that we allow to make these decisions, and that they try to legislate from behind a desk, and they're not legislators. They don't have a vote. So, I'm not worried about Israel because they're on auto check to get about $3.4 billion from America. The president did the right thing. He sent the Gerald R. Ford, the largest carrier, I guess, in the world, maybe sending more, and that shows a huge amount of support, and he can free up aid as he sees fit, just like he did for Ukraine without congressional support. And really, Congress is going to write a strong resolution, and I don't know that Hamas would actually read that. So unless we declare war or there's some additional aid that I don't know about that isn't on auto check, I think they're going to be just fine, and they probably would like Americans to mind our own business and let them handle it. And I think they're getting, as I stated before, you're going to see some very Old Testament kind of judgment come down on a lot of mean people, and they deserve it. Killing babies, you know, that reminds me of my dad telling me about the Second World War and the Japanese and Nanking, China, in I think 38, and just what they did to those poor civilians on Okinawa, and there hasn't been this many Jewish folks killed since the Holocaust. I mean, my gosh, if we can't rally around Israel right now, then we need to think about where we are.
Congressman Tim Burchett, we have to leave the conversation there, but we very much appreciate your time and perspective, so thanks.
Thank you, brother.
Of course. Still to come on CNN News Central, we're on the ground in Israel where thousands of Israeli reservists are amassing near the border with Gaza. The potential for a ground operation soon to be underway. Stay with CNN News Central.
There's something going around the Gordon home. Good thing Gertrude found Delson. Now what's going around is 12-hour cough relief. And the giggles. The family that takes Delson together feels better together.
At DriveTime.com, we've been hard at work. And we finally did it.
Did you make it so I can finally shop with thousands of cars with no hit to my credit?
Wait, yes! Go to DriveTime.com, get approved with no credit hit!
Go to DriveTime.com, get approved, and shop your real terms with no credit hit. Let's do it.
ADT Self-Setup, featuring Google Nest products. Now you can easily install your system that's backed by ADT's 24/7 monitoring with no long-term contracts.
Have fun.
So you have a home with no worries. Brought to you by ADT.
A lot of people need to replace their windows or patio doors, but they put it off because they think it'll be too expensive. Hi, I'm Ann Romer. I'm here with Michael Smith from Renewal by Anderson. You really work with the customers to find affordable solutions.
We do, Ann. We're the replacement window division of Anderson, one of the largest window manufacturers in North America. So we can usually offer our customers larger discounts and better financing than smaller companies or contractors.
Other window companies don't offer your same window and door installation method.
Our installers have installed thousands of windows. Our windows are manufactured to precisely fit your specific window openings. Being custom built also means if you have any beautiful trim that you'd like to keep, we can often install your windows without impacting that trim. You won't get this with most vinyl windows.
And you offer a free window and patio door diagnosis?
We do. We'll come to your home and assess your current windows, show you where you might be losing energy, and take measurements. Then we'll leave you with an exact price quote that's good for an entire year.
So you're not a high-pressure company?
My background is in home remodeling as a carpenter. I've seen every window problem out there. So now I just want to help homeowners make their homes more beautiful and comfortable with the right window.
And your patio doors are really gorgeous.
They are. And they're engineered to easily open and close for years. And with multiple locking points on our patio doors, they provide even greater security.
That is so great to hear, Michael. Thank you.
Before October 31st, buy one window, patio door, or entry door and get the next one 40% off. That's 40% off with a minimum purchase of 4. And our financing can help make this project more affordable with zero money down. 0 monthly payments, and 0 interest for 1 year. This offer ends October 31st. For a free appointment with Renewal by Anderson, call 1-800-501-1400. That's 1-800-501-1400.
Tired of sciatic nerve pain radiating down your leg and lower back? Get relief, finally, with MagnaLife Leg and Back Pain Relief Cream. Fast acting, and yes, it really works. So get living.
Available at your local retailer. The Keepsake Frames app makes it ridiculously easy to frame your favorite photos. Just choose a photo that you love, select the perfect frame, and you'll have your framed print delivered and ready to hang. Download the free Keepsake Frames app and start framing today.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper is appointment viewing on Sunday nights. One whole story, one whole hour. The world's best journalists dig deeper into the stories they can't ignore. The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, Sunday at 8 on CNN.
It can be hard to keep track of which vaccines are recommended and when. The Canadian Lung Association can help. Getting a COVID-19 booster shot this fall will help protect you against the more recent variants of the virus that causes COVID-19. This is especially important if you're one of the millions of Canadians living with chronic lung disease. If you're 65 or older, have a compromised immune system, or are otherwise at high risk, speak to your healthcare provider about getting vaccinated against pneumonia. For more information, visit lung.ca.
Custom Ink helps us motivate our students with custom gear. We love how Custom Ink takes care of everything we need so we can focus on the kids.
Custom Ink has hundreds of products to help you feel connected. Upload your logo or start your design today at customink.com.
I'm Erin Burnett in Tel Aviv, and this is CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
We only represent mesothelioma victims and their families. Call for a free book.
Call 800-282-4444 or go to Mesobook.com.
Well, events are moving on the ground here in Israel quickly. The nation, of course, preparing for war. A nation at war already, positioning hundreds of thousands of soldiers near the border with Gaza. In the 5 days since Hamas's terror attack, Israel and Gaza are now each reporting over 1,000 deaths. Officials are urgently trying to negotiate ways to get civilians out of areas likely to be hit hard during any kind of ground operation. A senior Israeli official tells CNN that talks are on to try to allow U.S. citizens who are in Gaza and Palestinian civilians to be able to leave the Gaza Strip into Egypt. That's something Egypt has always resisted in past years ahead of a possible Israeli ground invasion. And then, of course, there are the hostages, up to 150 people believed to have been captured by Hamas and other groups like Islamic Jihad, including an unknown number of American. Sources tell CNN that the nation of Qatar has been mediating in talks with Hamas to try to release women and children that have been kidnapped. America's top U.S. hostage official is accompanying the Secretary of State as he leaves for Israel. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. Joining right now is Daniel Flesch, a former spokesperson at Israel's mission to the United Nations. Daniel, thanks for being with us. You've said that Iran may have wanted to poison the developing normal relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia. I've talked to other people, Thomas Friedman and others, about that. Can you talk about why any potential deal with Saudi Arabia would be so threatening to Iran?
Well, certainly, Anderson. So a deal would be threatening to Iran because Saudi-Israeli normalization efforts would signal a paradigm shift and change in the Middle East. It would effectively end the 70-plus year Arab-Israeli war, Arab war on Israel. And the Abraham Accords from a couple of years ago were only approved because Saudi Arabia gave sanctions to them. It's the peace relationships between Israel, the UAE, and Bahrain. And clearly the great white whale for Israel in the Middle East is Saudi Arabia. So the question is to be asked, why did Hamas attack Israel today, or this past weekend? Why is it happening now? It's because last month, for example, at the UN General Assembly, Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, announced publicly that the peace negotiations or normalization talks are going positively. So Iran fears a new Saudi-Israeli rapprochement, and they are doing everything they can to interrupt that.
The White House, just as everyone knows, unfroze $6 billion to Iran in order to get American troops being held hostage in Iran back. There is now concern, though the White House denies it, that Iran was directly involved in these attacks. The White House has said that there's no evidence yet of a smoking gun at this stage, but certainly blames Iran broadly for their support of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. There's a lot of questions. Jake Sullivan was peppered with questions yesterday about is the White House going to rethink the unfreezing of those $6 billion? They say none of it's been spent. Do you think they should, and what impact might that have on events?
Well, certainly Iran has had a hand, while there's no smoking gun found yet, Iran has had a hand in orchestrating this entire event because Hamas is a wholly owned subsidiary of Iran, similarly with Hezbollah in the north. So even if Iran did not give the order to Hamas, it's been providing funding, it's been providing munitions, providing training, etc. So as it relates to the $6 billion, that's only a small drop in the tens of billions of dollars that Iran has recouped throughout this administration from oil exports and from other measures and means. So if the administration were able to stop the transfer of the $6 billion, that's phenomenal, but it's not changed the fact that Iran, in the last couple of years, has felt incredibly emboldened in the region. And so anything going forward needs to realize that Iran, again, even if it did not directly order Hamas to initiate the attack, the atrocious attacks on Israeli civilians, Americans too, mind you, from this weekend, it certainly has been instrumental in key in planning it.
If Egypt was to allow not only American citizens in Gaza, who are currently in Gaza, living there with family, whatever it may be, and a certain number of civilians in Gaza to leave and to cross over into Egypt, from a military standpoint, I assume that would actually help Israel to have fewer civilians on the ground in Gaza itself during any kind of ground operation. But what would that look like? I mean, do you think that is logistically possible? Because there are a lot of people in Gaza who would like to leave Gaza.
Well, people forget this, you point out though, Gaza has two borders, one with Israel and another with Egypt. So there's no reason why, for example, the Egyptians shouldn't be allowing Gazans to leave. I mean, that's a different policy issue on their end. But it's not very difficult to get from areas of the Gaza Strip to Egypt. And certainly, whenever there's a war, it'd be great if the wars were conducted in isolated rural environments, but it's not going to be the case, and particularly not here, because Hamas is embedded among its civilian population. We can't forget, Hamas perfected the use of human shields, and it will want to use every civilian it can to retard the advance of the Israeli Defense Forces and to make a PR campaign of the offensive that's to come. So certainly any civilians able to get out of Gaza through Egypt should be making their way there, but ultimately whatever happens to the population in Gaza Strip is a responsibility of Hamas.
Unfortunately, it doesn't seem they care much about that. They built obviously this network of tunnels, which could be used as bomb shelters for civilians, but it's not. It's used by Hamas militants to move weapons and to protect themselves. Daniel Flesch, appreciate your time tonight. Israel's defense ministry says that the first shipment of U.S. munitions since the Hamas attacks has arrived as troops prepare on the ground here for what is to come. More on the challenges of urban warfare ahead.
Does someone who threatens Putin's power ever die unintentionally in Russia?
I don't think so. He just leaves all this carnage in his wake.
Do you think he cares about that?
No, he doesn't.
The Source with Caitlin Collins, tonight at 9.
My name is Josh Sanabia, and I'm the owner at Islam Veterinary Boutique Hospital. I was 5-6 years of age, and I knew I was going to be a vet. Once Alexandra called me to let me know that Bank of America had approved my loan, it was important to me.
We not only just provide the financing piece, we do everything that we can to surround them with the right people.
All you need is a perfect, amazing team that will guide you through the right steps to be successful. And that's what Bank of America was for me.
At Consumer Cellular, we offer amazing 5G coverage, backed up by incredible customer service. But that wouldn't mean much without super low prices. You already know we're up to half as much as the largest carriers. But guess what? AARP members can save even more. Yahoo!
Switch to Consumer Cellular now and get unlimited talk and text with a flexible data plan starting at only $20 a month.
There comes a time when you realize the kitchen you used to love is ready for a refresh. Let a Cabinets to Go design expert help you craft the look you want with quality products in today's designer styles and colors, backed by a transferable lifetime warranty. Out with the old, in with the new. It's that easy. From design to install, we do it all. Plus, get 0% APR for a limited time. Visit cabinetstogo.com to schedule your free design consultation today. Cabinets to Go. Wow for less.
Hi, it's Christina again. I'm here to tell you about an all-new special offer from my friends at Jacuzzi Bath Remodel that you don't want to miss. You already know, Jacuzzi has been making water feel great for more than 65 years. And now, they're bringing you this special TV offer. We're waiving all installation costs and postponing all payments for 1 year. Jacuzzi Bath Remodel has the design you'll love at a price you can afford. And, best of all, they can install it in as little as 1 day with no stress and no mess. Are you ready to see your new shower? Here it is.
It's fabulous! Taking a shower had gone from being a joy to being a burden. I was afraid I would fall. I called, and just 1 day, I had a shower I could feel safe in.
No matter your situation, Jacuzzi Bath Remodel has a solution for you. From a safer, easy entry shower with features like grab bars and a custom seat to keep you feeling comfortable and independent at home, to a stunning family bath, or how about a luxurious upgrade with a timeless design that will look great for years to come. Plus, they're built to last with a lifetime warranty from an iconic brand you know you can trust.
It was done the same day. We did not have to wait.
It's absolutely perfect. It's exactly what I was dreaming of. If you haven't already experienced what Jacuzzi Bath Remodel can do for you, your family, and your home, don't wait any longer. Now is the best time to call. It's never been easier. Take advantage of this special TV offer today.
Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-321-0299. That's 800-321-0299. Call now.
Drive Time has a big announcement. An even easier way to buy a car. You make the deal yourself.
I made the deal myself.
It's the Drive Time Real Deal Maker. It lets you customize the real down payment and monthly payment of the car you want to buy.
I can make the deal myself?
I make the deal myself? It's your car. Make the deal that makes sense for you.
It makes sense to me.
I made the deal myself. You made the deal yourself. Then just go to the dealership for a haggle-free purchase because you already made the deal yourself. Woo! Get the real deal at drivetime.com.
Israeli airstrikes are hammering Gaza right now as the IDF has mobilized roughly 300,000 troops, and a ground operation into Gaza appears to be coming soon. The first shipment of advanced munitions from the U.S. arrived in Israel today. You see that video there. Let's discuss with Major John Spencer. He's an Army veteran and chair of urban warfare studies at West Point. He's also the co-author of Understanding Urban Warfare. Sir, thank you so much for being with us. Among the challenges you say that the IDF could face in Gaza, as we take a look at some drone footage from that area, you mentioned rockets, drones, tunnels, even civilian human shields. What's your concern about a ground operation there? How do the Israelis combat all of that?
Yeah, I mean, the Israelis have thought through a lot of that, and there's lots of ways, especially the human shield, right? That's the big, giant concern of the operation in any of the urban areas in Gaza. But the IDF know how to tell the civilians to leave. They've already issued videos, photos, text, but it's hard because Hamas also is very known in all past operations to keep those civilians in those buildings, to keep them on the streets, and then air their deaths as a pursuit of their objectives.
Major, I do want to show our viewers some video of the tanks that are being amassed by Israel. Given the dense terrain in Gaza, the fact that it is a very urban setting, are vehicles like these usable? What's the most effective weaponry there?
Vehicles like those are vital to entering a dense urban area that is defended by, this kind of enemy force. You have to be able to take the first shot. So they'll lead with bulldozers, follow with a tank that can shoot back at a concrete building. The tank is like one of the most vital pieces of equipment you need in a fight like this, contested urban environment.
And how about the capabilities that Hamas has? Do they have the ammunition, the air power to stop Israel?
No, not at all. I mean, there's no way around it. This will be a costly operation if executed on all sides, on the IDF, on collateral damage. But no, the Hamas doesn't have, they don't even have a phased defensive line like ISIS did in the Battle of Mosul. But they can make it very costly on the IDF through anti-tank guided munitions, rockets, all those things that, house bombs, things like that. But they can't stop it.
Major, I wanted to get your thoughts on the potential for this to be a multi-front conflict for Israel, because we've gotten reports that there was some Hezbollah activity here in the border with Lebanon. There are obviously a lot of groups in Syria that are anti-Israel. You've got the Golan Heights and the West Bank here, and then the focus being Gaza. Could all of that stretch the IDF thin?
Absolutely it could. I mean, that's the concern. They're massing, like you said, 300,000 reserves. Really, if you add the active duty, that's 400,000 soldiers. An operation into Gaza will take 100 plus over that 1,000 forces actually in the fight. So yes, a different front, a second front, a third front would call it the stretch the IDF in. It'd be really challenging, and that's why this is a very, very sensitive situation. It does look like Israel plans to execute the Gaza mission, but it'll be trying to keep that second front, the third front from opening for sure.
There are also questions about how Israel might be able to eliminate the leadership of Hamas. One of the stated goals from officials in Israel, partly because there are a series of tunnels through Gaza. There are bunkers. There's also the issue that some of the Hamas leadership may have fled Gaza altogether. They may be in Egypt. Is there any scenario, you think, in Israel's pursuit of Hamas leadership in which it doesn't lead to a drawn-out military presence for Israel in Gaza?
That's a tough one, and you're right. There are hundreds of miles, not just a few, hundreds of miles of tunnels underneath Gaza in the urban environments in Gaza. That poses a huge military challenge. But you're right. It also allows Hamas leadership, if they're even still there, to be able to hide, escape, and to contain them would be really hard. But of those objectives that IDF has said that they want to accomplish, it's also about removing the military capability, which is a very bold objective they haven't tried before, which you have to go in and clear urban terrain to do that.
Yeah, Major John Spencer, thanks so much for sharing your perspective with us. Our live coverage from Israel continues after a short break.
Airwick's limited edition fragrances are infused with natural essential oils for authentic seasonal scents that fill your home with warmth and cheer.
This auto shop needs a small business loan fast to hire more help. So they're going to On Deck, the online lender that makes it easy to choose your loan and if approved, get funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
Today, 190,000 Americans broke down on the side of the road, and you could be next. The average cost associated with auto repairs is $7,500. Those costs hit you when you least expect them and can't afford them. That's why you shouldn't be driving without A-plus rated Ox Car Care. After all, it's not if you'll need repairs, it's when.
I'm so glad that I have Ox Car Care right now because I just can't afford any costly repairs at the moment, and I also can't be without my car.
Call the number on your screen right now for a free quote. You have to protect yourself from those unexpected repair costs. Inflation is causing auto repair prices to skyrocket. Plus, prices to buy a new or used car are through the roof, so you'll be keeping your vehicle longer. Expensive major repairs will be needed, so now is the time to get Ox. The Ox Car Care team is based right here in the U.S., and they are the administrators of your claim. They never farm out your policy somewhere else.
One call to Ox Car Care is really all it took. They simplified things, they listened to me, I felt like I was in good hands.
Call Ox now and let them pay for your auto repairs. Act now and Ox Ox will even include free oil changes, free tire rotation, free roadside assistance with lockout service, towing, flat tire repair, rental car service, and more. Your vehicle can break down at any time, and you'll be paying the big repair bill unless you have Ox Car Care.
Ox Car Care is the real deal. They do what they say they're going to do. They really had my back.
Call now with your make and model and get a free, no-obligation instant quote. Ox Car Care even comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. Don't wait. You need coverage before a repair is needed. Call Ox Car Care right now when your coverage can start as soon as today.
Call 1-800-219-1893. That's 1-800-219-1893 to get a free quote today.
I wanna hold you. I'm gonna love you forever. I'm there. You don't have to worry. Be by your side. I'll be there with my arms.
Being a journalist is the best job in the world. Asking challenging questions of the folks who run the world. Is Ukraine going to win this war?
Yes, of course.
You ready?
The Lead with Jake Tapper, CNN, next.
We planned well for retirement, but I wish we had more cash.
You think those two have any idea that they can sell their life insurance policy for cash, so they're basically sitting on a gold mine? I don't think they have a clue. That's crazy. Well, not everyone knows Coventry's helped thousands of people sell their policies for cash, even term policies. I can't believe they're just sitting up there, sitting on all this cash.
If you own a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you can sell all or part of it to Coventry, even a term policy, for cash or a combination of cash and coverage with no future premiums.
Someone needs to tell them that they're sitting on a gold mine and you have no idea. Hey guys, you're sitting on a gold mine.
Do you hear that?
I don't hear anything anymore.
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-392-7600 or visit coventrydirect.com.
I'm Priscilla Alvarez at the White House, and this is CNN.
Early Saturday morning, very close to the Gaza border, a kibbutz, a farm community that was home to some 300 Israelis called Nir Oz, was attacked by Hamas. The video shows gunmen racing toward it, and you can also see smoke rising from the kibbutz in the distance. It's still not clear how many people living in Nir Oz were murdered or wounded or kidnapped, but a cameraman from Gaza uploaded a video that he made of the kidnapping of a woman named Shiri Babas and her two little boys, a 3-year-old Ariel and a 9-month-old Kafir. And we want to warn you that the video you're about to see is disturbing.
عنا مش عنده ما حدا حيسيبها عشان تعرف الإنسانية عنا أيوة استروها وخلوها لما تاخدوها حية اعرفوا خلوها تعرف
That's her, Shiri, clutching those two little boys. I met with Shiri's cousin, whose name is Ifat Zeiler, yesterday.
Every hour, things get clearer and more horrific. It's something that we can't really understand. A nightmare.
Ifat is searching for any information about her cousin Shiri, her kids, and the rest of her family. When did you realize something had happened?
Saturday morning around 10 o'clock. We lost connection with my cousin.
It wasn't until she saw this video Saturday that Ifat knew Shiri and her kids had likely been taken hostage.
I can see the horror in her face. I think they might have been in a state of shock. They were still dazed, not understanding what's going on around them. This video is horrible, but it's the only proof of life we have. Other families don't have that. It gives me something to hold on to.
Shiri lives with her husband, Yarden, and their 2 children. Have you had any word about her husband?
Nothing. Nothing. We don't know.
Also missing is Yifat's uncle and aunt, Yossi and Margit Silberman.
My aunt has Parkinson's disease. Without her medications, her body stiffens. We're a small family, and half of them are kidnapped.
Half of your family's.
Yeah. This is it. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is our lives now.
Yifat has children of her own, but can't stop thinking about Shiri's kids, Ariel and Kafir.
I want to know that they're being fed, if their diaper was changed, if Kafir got his formula, his butter, something to eat.
They need formula, they need everything.
We need a sign of life.
I'm so sorry.
It's the only thing that helps me be sane right now is sitting here with you and showing their faces and telling their story. I want my family back. I want my family back. I'm trying to be strong and start and speak clearly, but I'm devastated. I'm devastated. I don't know what else to do. We need institutions from the world. We need someone to take care of those captive people, civilians. I've been lost of words, really. Every hour, every day, it's getting worse. We know that the first days are the most important.
Take your time.
I want my family, if there's any chance they're watching this, I want them to know that we love them and we're doing everything we can to get them. I want them to be strong, and then we are strong. We want this to end in the best way possible.
Hours after we did that interview, Yifat sent us this picture that the family just found online. It shows Shiri's husband, Yarden, with blood on his head and his hands, but alive and seemingly in captivity. That is the first proof of life the family has gotten in more than 4 days now since he went missing. That's it for us. The Lead with Jake Tapper starts right after this short break. We'll have more from Israel later today.
There are some things that go better together.
Burger and fries, soup and salad.
Like your workplace benefits and retirement savings. With Voya, considering all your financial choices together can help you make smarter decisions.
Voya, well planned, well invested, well protected.
The Keepsake Frames app makes it ridiculously easy to frame your favorite photos. Just choose a photo that you love, select the perfect frame, and you'll have your framed print delivered and ready to hang. Download the free Keepsake Frames app and start framing today.
It's easy to get lost in investment research. Introducing JP Morgan Personal Advisors.
Hey, David.
Connect with an advisor to create your personalized plan.
Let's find the right investments for your goals.
Okay, great.
JP Morgan Wealth Management.
Now look at them arcing up. This is the defensive missile system.
The worst single day in Israel's history since 1948.
We have just had a massive barrage of rockets coming in here.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
And that pain has echoed thousands of families all across this country. For continuing coverage of the conflict here in Israel.
The Navy League of Canada is welcoming new cadets to join our youth program for 9 to 12-year-olds. Navy League cadets discover the thrill of the sea and the joy of lifelong friendships. Develop leadership skills, discipline, and resilience that will shape their future. Visit our website or call us today to learn about the exciting journey of Navy League cadets and the oceans of opportunities. Ask a parent before going online. The Navy League of Canada, empowering the leaders of tomorrow.
Join me on my perfect feel-good vacation adventure in Penticton, BC.
Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. The war in the Middle East at this hour appears to be expanding as it steps up its Gaza offensive. Israel has now formed an emergency wartime government in response to the Hamas terror attacks that have killed at least 1,200 people, 22 or more of them Americans. The Israeli government is publicly accusing the Iranian regime of, quote, giving the green light to Hamas, which it funds, to carry out the barbaric attacks over the weekend, a statement that differs from sources familiar with U.S. intelligence. If you thought the seriousness of this all, the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Haulocaust, a war that will cost countless innocent Israeli and Palestinian lives, risks of a regional conflict, if you thought this all would motivate House Republicans to get their act together, to elect a speaker so the U.S. legislative branch can function, well, you would be wrong. Behind closed doors today, the majority of House Republicans chose Congressman Steve Scalise of Louisiana to be their nominee to be the next Speaker of the House, but 99 House Republicans did not choose him, and instead of coming together behind the majority choice of the majority party, the minority is once again rebelling. And the full House vote on the next Speaker, which could have been happening right this minute, is not happening, and it's scheduled for, well, who knows when, really. Let's start on Capitol Hill with CNN's Melanie Zanona. Melanie, when will this vote for Speaker take place? At least, when is it scheduled to take place? And does Scalise have enough Republican support to win the speakership, or will he by that time?
Well, Jake, at this moment, there is no floor vote scheduled for today in the House. In fact, it seems very unlikely that is going to happen, and that is because of your second question, which is Steve Scalise does not currently have enough votes to secure the speakership on the House floor. Remember, he only won the party nomination by a very slim margin. The vote was 113 to 99, and he needs 217 on the House floor. So Scalise has some work to do here, and he did recognize that to reporters after he won the party nomination. Let's take a listen.
First, I want to thank my House Republican colleagues for just designating me as the Speaker. Obviously, we still have work to do. We're going to have to go upstairs on the House floor and resolve this and then get the House opened again.
Now, one thing that might help Scalise here is that Jim Jordan, his rival in the Speaker's race, has offered to give the nominating speech for Steve Scalise on the House floor, and he's also encouraging his supporters to get behind Steve Scalise. But Jake, according to our tally, there are at least 8 members who say they're going to vote for someone else other than Scalise on the floor, and an additional 8 members who say they are either undecided or non-committal. So there's a math problem here. Steve Scalise is going to have to rally the support of the Congress, but at this point, he does not have the votes, all while critical issues like aid for Israel and government funding hang in the balance.
And what are we hearing from Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz, who started this fight by filing the motion to remove former Speaker Kevin McCarthy?
Yeah, so interestingly, Matt Gaetz is not one of those members who is vowing to withhold support for Steve Scalise. In fact, he is cheering on the idea of a Steve Scalise speakership. Let's take a listen.
I'm excited for it. Can't wait to go vote for Steve Scalise. Absolutely. Long live Speaker Scalise.
So Matt Gaetz, as you heard there, seems content to have just taken down Kevin McCarthy. He is not seeming like he's going to try to make any demands or have any concessions that he needs, but that's not the case for other members. Some of them, including Ken Buck, one of the members who did vote to take down Kevin McCarthy, said he wants to see several commitments from Steve Scalise, including on what he's going to do on Ukraine aid, what he's going to do on government funding, and whether the 2020 election was stolen. That was a question that he asked both candidates behind closed doors, and neither of them would answer. So again, the big picture here is that the House Republican Conference once again struggling to coalesce around a single candidate, unable to elect a speaker, and the House is paralyzed until they do. Jake.
All right, Melanie Zanona in Capitol Hill, thanks so much. So turning now to our big breaking news story. Right now, the U.S. government is in talks to establish a humanitarian corridor, a way for the innocent U.S. citizens and Palestinians who are in Gaza to leave as Israeli forces carry out hundreds of airstrikes there, pummeling the region. Israel is also mobilizing forces along its border with Gaza, a number estimated to be around 300,000 troops. Remember, Israel has conscription. CNN teams have seen tanks and other heavy military equipment rolling toward the border with Gaza. In just a few minutes, President Biden is expected to speak at an event with Jewish community leaders. The White House released this photo of Biden's call this morning with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, after which Biden reaffirmed his support for Israel.
This moment, we have to be crystal clear. There is no justification for terrorism, no excuse, and the type of terrorism that's exhibited here is just beyond the pale. As I said yesterday, my commitment to Israel's security and the safety of the Jewish people is unshakable. The United States has Israel's back.
CNN's Clarissa Ward is in Ashdod, Israel, north of the Gaza border. And Clarissa, you walked through some of the devastation in Be'eri, Israel. What did you see?
Jake, it was a scene, frankly, that, it's hard to get your head around, honestly. The scale of the destruction. It took the Israeli military days of pitched battles to completely clear and gain control of what was once a sort of very tranquil oasis, a community of people who had lived together for a long time, roughly 1,000 or so. So far already they have found the bodies of more than 120 people from that community. There are many others, though, Jake, who are missing. It's unclear. Were they taken hostage? Are they in Gaza? Are they alive? Are they somewhere else, possibly? And it was the first time that journalists have been allowed in, and there was a huge group of us were brought in at the very end of the day. It's difficult in these situations always, Jake. You realize you're just starting to get a sense of the scale of the atrocities, and it's difficult as well, of course, to put together a really coherent picture of exactly what happened. What is clear is that there was an enormous amount of bloodshed. You can see blood all over the place. You can see the extent of the firepower that was required to try to take it back. You can see where fires were started by the militants as they basically went through door to door, executing people, abducting them. We spoke to one resident who has lived there for 30 years. His 8-year-old daughter, the first thought he had was his daughter who had gone to her friend's house for a sleepover, and she never came back. He was lucky to be rescued, but his 8-year-old daughter is among those more than 120 dead. And so you're really talking about the kind of loss and the kind of destruction and the kind of hatred that honestly is difficult to process, is difficult to understand. There will obviously be a lot of questions to be asked about how this happened and what exactly happened, and putting together a timeline and trying to really thoroughly understand the whole anatomy of this massacre. But make no mistake about it, Jake, it was a massacre and a horrific one.
Larissa, you visited war zones around the world, and bloodshed and war is always horrible wherever it is. How does this scene of this particular massacre, these attacks on civilians, not accidental killing of civilians, not collateral damage, but targeted slaughter of children and grandparents and women, how does this compare to other scenes that you have experienced?
I think it's always very difficult to compare, but I will say that there is something so shocking and horrifying about the intimacy of these killings.
Right.
It's not that one is morally better or worse, but these killings were done eye to eye. These fighters could see who they were killing. They could see that they were civilians. This wasn't a drone strike. Again, I'm not saying that a drone strike is morally superior in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that the psychological impact of seeing that up close killing, or the aftermath of it, it is very shocking. And it is not unusual. Sadly, we have seen it in Ukraine. We saw it in Bucha, for example. But it is something that even after doing this job for nearly 20 years, Jake, you never, ever get used to.
And obviously, the terrorists of Hamas are the ones responsible, and they alone shoulder the blame. But I have seen video from Israel of citizens either speaking to camera on Israeli TV or confronting members of the Israeli cabinet, yelling at them, holding them responsible for the inadequate military readiness, the delayed response. There's a palpable sense of anger that I can feel thousands of miles away. I'm wondering what you're feeling there in Israel.
There absolutely is, Jake. And we actually put this to the general, the major general, who was showing these journalists around. How did it take so long? How did this get to this stage? How did this happen? And he acknowledged that there needs to be a very in-depth investigation into the series of catastrophic failures that ultimately resulted in the horrors that we are discovering more and more now every day. He also said that he feels, and I think a lot of Israelis probably share this opinion too, that right now the most pressing issue, he said, is how do I get these hostages outside of Gaza? Right now the most pressing issue is how do we go from being on the defense to being on the offense? And so I think that is the mindset, certainly, of the Israeli military, not wanting to necessarily shirk the responsibility, but saying that today is not yet the day for that discussion, Jake.
Clarissa Ward, thank you so much. Appreciate it, as always. We're learning some of the names and some of the stories of the at least 22 Americans who were killed by Hamas in this terrorist attack. We're standing by to hear from President Biden this hour. He is convening a roundtable at the White House with Jewish community leaders. We'll have much more ahead. We're going to squeeze in this quick break. Stay with us.
Stars Play in Abu Dhabi is the region's leading streaming service that brings you the magic of films and the excitement of sports to your favorite device, be it television or your mobile phone. With a business like ours, we need a range of talent, from technology as well as creative. We found Abu Dhabi to be our hub for accessing that type of talent.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail. The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because you know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way. Offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional grade products. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
There comes a time when you realize the kitchen you used to love is ready for a refresh. Let a Cabinets to Go design expert help you craft the look you want with quality products in today's designer styles and colors, backed by a transferable lifetime warranty. Out with the old, in with the new. It's that easy. From design to install, we do it all. Plus, get 0% APR for a limited time. Visit cabinetstogo.com to schedule your free design consultation today. Cabinets to Go. Wow for less.
Meet Milo. He's part border collie and part party animal. Meet the new Bissell Little Green Hydro Steam Pet. It's part steam-powered stain remover and part party animal patrol. Bissell, a new breed of clean.
Hi, I'm Ideal and I lost 90 pounds on Golo. I struggled with weight loss and weight gain my entire life. With all the yo-yo dieting I did in the past, I would lose 20, 30, 50 pounds just to gain them over and over again. In 1 year, I've lost 5 sizes and I'm on my way to lose another 3. With Golo, I can do it.
Change your life at Golo.com. That's GOLO.com.
ADT Self-Setup, featuring Google Nest products. Now you can easily install your system that's backed by ADT's 24/7 monitoring with no long-term contracts. So you have a home with no worries. Brought to you by ADT.
I served in the Army for 11 years and deployed overseas 3 times. I understand the price of freedom,
and I'm aware of the threats we face from our foreign adversaries. Countries like China, Russia, and Iran believe in oppression and censorship, and they want to dominate and use tomorrow's technologies against America. If you value free expression and an open internet, join me in sending a message to Congress. It's time to strengthen, not weaken, American technology.
Wayfair has nice prices, so you can have nice things.
Kelly, we have champagne taste on a hard seltzer budget.
Wayfair's got just what you need.
What?
Y'all, this is nice.
Salad plate? Kelly Clarkson? I'm fancy now. I have always wanted statement lighting.
Get nice things at nice prices at Wayfair.
Wayfair, you've got just what I need.
You're seeing images of some of the Americans that we know were murdered in that brutal Hamas terrorist attack in Israel over the weekend. Today we learned that that list is growing. At least 22 U.S. citizens were killed by Hamas, according to a State Department official. An estimated 17 Americans remain missing, whereabouts unknown. CNN's Erica Hill details now what we are learning about those Americans who were killed.
Deborah was a child of light and life. She went the equivalent to the Berklee School of Music in Boston. She went to the Rimon School in Tel Aviv, where she met Shlomi, her husband. She is a singer, a child of life in the kibbutz in which she chose to live.
Israeli-American Deborah Matias and her husband died protecting their 16-year-old son, Rotem.
We were on the phone with Deborah as she was killed. We were on the phone the entire day with our son, our grandson Rotem, as he lay first under her body and then found a place to escape under a blanket in a laundry.
Chaim Katzman, a musician, DJ, and community volunteer, is being remembered as a brilliant academic by his sibling. The Association for Israeli Studies also noting the emerging scholar who earned his PhD at the University of Washington was deeply committed to community service and engagement. He was killed while hiding in a closet with his neighbor.
He absorbed all the bullets into his body, and when I went out, I saw him. He was a wonderful person. He was a talented person. He was a funny person. He was someone who wanted to live. His name is Chaim. Chaim in Hebrew is life. That's the meaning of his name, and he gave life to this planet because he saved me, and I was able to save 2 kids.
IDF Sergeant Roe Weiser's mother says her son always had a smile on his face. When his base was overrun by Hamas terrorists, she tells CNN Roe diverted their attention. The 21-year-old, quote, died as he lived by putting others first. Because of his bravery, at least 12 other soldiers are alive today. New Jersey-born Itai Glisko, also in the IDF, was covering a friend's shift when the attack came. His aunt said he was always offering to help and wanted to serve in the army, like his father. The family is devastated. Itai Glisko was just 20 years old. Danielle Ben Senior was working at the Nova Music Festival. Born in California, she worked as a medic and had also served in the IDF. Danielle last spoke with her father Friday night.
My heart, it's on the floor. She's everything for me. Without her, there is no value for life.
On Wednesday, Jacob's worst fears were confirmed when he was told his 34-year-old daughter had been murdered.
Every day we get new information. I do expect that, unfortunately, that the list of Americans who are confirmed dead will rise today.
Erica Hill, CNN, New York.
And our thanks to Erica Hill for that report. Our next guest attended the Nova Music Festival on Saturday, where Hamas killed at least 260 people. 25-year-old Lee Sassi hid for several hours after the attack began. She was able to survive by hiding under dead bodies. And Lee Sassi joins us now. Lee, I can't imagine what you went through. I can't imagine any of it. But it is important that the world bear witness to what you went through. Can you describe what happened?
I will try to describe, what I've been through is not even equivalent to the Walking Dead movie series. I we went to the party. Our cousin was a DJ that it was performing there as a DJ, and so we decided to go as a family and to go support. And we went to the party and we arrived there around 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and we danced until sunrise. And right when 6:30 a.m. hit, hell broke loose. We had to run for our lives. We saw rockets shooting in the air, so we ran to the car and we went to the nearest bomb shelter that was down the street outside of the festival. As we got into the as we got into the bomb shelter, there was about 35 and 40 people who entered. When we got rescued 7 hours later, only 9 to 10 survived. Everyone that came into that bomb shelter, I saw get murdered in front of my eyes. My eyes were murdered. My soul was shattered. Just to even talk about it, I can't even cry because it's like my tears are frozen from what I saw. I had to witness firsthand my uncle getting getting blown and exploded by a grenade threw onto his stomach. I had to witness a girl getting a grenade hit on her back and her back blew out, and I saw her sitting there crying, her face blowing up, and she's suffering for 2 hours. I saw so many things that I can't even explain. I saw guts. I had flesh all over my body. We had to bury ourselves under these dead corpses to protect ourselves from these grenades that were hitting and from the rifles and the RPG. You could hear the terrorists laughing from excitement, laughing from happiness that we're dying. These people that were with us. I just found out today that there was 2 girls that were pregnant in my bomb shelter. 2 girls that were pregnant. One survived. I'm so grateful. But what happened was like the Haulocaust 2.0. I can't even describe to you. I never thought in my life that something like this would ever happen to me. After sitting there, hiding under bodies for 7 hours, we just prayed. All I had to do was pray. I was in shock. I couldn't even cry. I was in survival mode. That's when I knew that it's either now or never. You know, I thought my life was going to end. I thought I was going to die. So that's why I started taking videos. I started filming myself. I started making videos.
The Holocaust 2.0, the Holocaust 2.0, the Holocaust 2.0. Holocaust 2.0, yeah. Holocaust 2.0. The Holocaust 2.0. 2.0. The Holocaust 2.0. 2.0, yes, that's what she said. And she lived it. She had the experience of the Hamas attack. She lived through it, saw it with her open eyes, and tried to film what she could while it lasts. Yeah, while it lasted, she got some footage of herself and what's going on as they use their grenades and shot, kill, stab, behead, decapitate. Well, not great words to use of late, but it happened, you can't deny it, just like some people try to deny the Holocaust. Well, this is Holocaust 2.0. Holocaust 2.0. Hamas fighters turn into barbarians. No better step up short of cannibals. Oh, Haulocaust 2.0. Israel has a right to defend itself. Haulocaust 2.0. Well, you just heard it, yeah. She was describing how they had to hide under dead people just to not be seen. Blood everywhere, blood on her. Well, that's blood on Hamas. The whole world's not gonna support you. No, they know you must be fought. No terrorist organization in their right mind can get the loyalty of people who know that good is good and good is good and bad is bad. Yeah, Hamas, you showed your true colors. Well, you go ahead and get mad, 'cause I'll stand up to you, the world will stand up to you, and you will be gone, obliterated, no more. You will not exist. Your time has come. Decapitating 40 babies. I swear.